Thank you, Madam Chair. Happy Monday.
Oh, yeah, and I got a gavel in. There you go.
House Bill 1244 is an update, hopefully, for the Virginia Telephone Privacy Protection Act. This would amend Virginia Code 591514, which is the unwanted telephone solicitation bill, which was last changed in 2005. This legislation, Madam Chair, would essentially update and expand the protections of this act to include wireless as well as landline communications, would raise the fines for unwanted, fraudulent, or spoofing telephone calls to a maximum of $5,000 for the third and subsequent offense, continues to allow enforcement by the Attorney General, the Commonwealth's attorney, or the local city attorney, and is intended to essentially parallel the legislation that we're seeing in other states, including most recently North Carolina, in helping to provide these protections for their citizens. There is a technical amendment which I would offer at this time.
Sure. The clerk may report the amendment. Thank you. And council right now is distributing the amendment.
Madam Chair, there would be two line amendments. The first is on line 38. After called, strike parties, insert persons. The second is on line 52. After called, strike parties, insert persons.
So everyone knows that's persons, singular, possessive.
Yes. And that is simply to make the language consistent throughout the statute as opposed to having party and then person referring to the same entity.
And Delegate Harrigan, I also note that this also deals with text messages here. I just want to make sure that people know that in line 33 that says, or Romanet 2, any text message sent to any wireless telephone with a Virginia area code or to a wireless telephone registered to any natural person who is a resident of the Commonwealth. Can you just basically explain the importance of including the text in there?
But basically, that maximizes the jurisdiction for enforcement of the act. Certainly, as we all know, text communications are now used to spoof and to fraudulently solicit every bit as much as a voice communication is. It makes text communications essentially co-equal with voice communications in terms of enforcement.
Okay, and so Delegate Herodic, for every legislator who's up here, if we send out a max text during GOTV reminding people to go vote, is that going to be, would that fall under this bill?
Well, Madam Chair, is certainly anyone who is voting for us would not be committing fraud and we would not be doing that in that process. So, no, I think that would be governed under the First Amendment, which is political speech, not commercial speech.
Great.
And therefore, I think we have a clear distinction of enforceability.
Fantastic. All right, questions from the dais? Delegate Weber.
So,
and I just as a reminder, everything goes through the chair.
Madam Chair, question for the patron.
Delegate Messita.
Is this similar to the bill that you brought, I think, last year?
Madam Chair, I'd say to the gentleman that yes, it is very similar. It's a little bit expanded to include text communications as well. I think the gentleman voted for it last year, and I hope he does so again.
A further question, Madam Chair?
Delegate Messita.
In regards to the text, what would be a good example of where this bill would, I guess, what this bill seeks to achieve in regards to like a fraudulent text?
I would say to the gentleman, Madam Chair, that, for example, we sometimes see texts for fraudulent billing collections. For example, you get a text that says, your utility bill is unpaid and you're going to lose your connection in, 12 hours unless you respond immediately to this text and send us money. Similar things, I understand, occur quite frequently. So that would essentially be one example of the type of fraudulent or spoofing text that would be enforceable under this bill.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for the patron? Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the bill?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Sherry Neal. I'm the Intergovernmental Affairs Manager for the City of Portsmouth, and we thank Senator Delegate Heretic for bringing this bill forward on behalf of the city. I just promoted him, right? It was 820. You got a promotion. But really quickly, this is something that our Attorney General has been fighting for the last 2 years. He had joined in with 40 other attorney generals to push the FCC to make stronger rules on this. And in due process, North Carolina did pass this bill, and we're just asking that our bill be our code be updated to address these same conditions that North Carolina and the Attorney General have been pushing for. Thank you.
Question. So is this bill in regards to the penalties almost exactly like North Carolina?
That's exactly.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of the bill? Is there anyone here to speak against the bill? Committee operates on motion.
Second.
The motion's been made and properly seconded. Everyone, please cast your vote. And also, that's report with amendment. So can you just please restate?
I withdraw my motion.
The motion has been withdrawn? Replacement.
Report with amendment, as amended.
Second.
Great. All right. The motion is to report as amended. It's been properly seconded. So everyone, please cast your vote. All right. The clerk will close the roll. Ayes 6, noes 0. The bill as amended reports out. All right. And just one little bit of housekeeping to do before Delegate Levine presents. I need a motion to strike by the patron's request HB 133 from Delegate Mieres.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Okay. Needs to be seconded. Second. Great. And that's a roll call vote.
Strike is, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Aye.
All right. So, well, it's a roll call vote. We'll do that in just a moment. All right.
Okay, hold on.
We have to vote to strike Delegate Mieres' bill by request. All right, clerk will close the roll. Ayes 6, noes 0. The bill has been struck from the docket. And also, this next one is voice vote. Delegate Mark Heem has asked for his bill to go by for the week, so I need a motion. All right, it's been made and properly seconded. This is a voice vote, so all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, the bill has been moved on to next week. Next up, Delegate Levine.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. HB 321 is a bill to provide a little bit more flexibility to local officials to attend meetings electronically. First, I do have a clarifying line amendment.
All right, that's going to be distributed by council right now, and if the clerk will please report the amendment.
Madam Chair, the amendment will be on line 22. After a year, insert rounded up to the next whole number.
So, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, what this bill does is it allows a little bit more flexibility for local officials to attend meetings electronically. Under current law, local officials can only not attend in person 2 meetings in a calendar year. They still attend, they attend electronically. 2 meetings in a calendar year it's a lot if you meet quarterly. If you meet every 3 months and you miss 2 meetings of the year, well, you're missing half your meetings. You're not actually missing them again, you're attending electronically. But one can understand how 2 meetings a year would actually be a lot if you meet quarterly. If, however, you are the Vice Mayor of Alexandria, Elizabeth Bennett Parker, who brought this bill to me, they attend some 50 meetings a year, and therefore, if you electronically attend 2 and you can't electronically attend a third, that poses a hardship. You can only, by the way, electronically attend if it's due to a personal matter. You have to identify it with specificity, the nature of the personal matter. So it's very clear to the public exactly what you're doing. This bill would expand it to 2 meetings or 10% of the meetings, rounded up to the next whole number, whichever is greater. So it wouldn't change quarterly meetings. It wouldn't change monthly meetings. If you meet 12 times a year, that would be rounded up 1.2 to 2, still only 2 a year. But if you meet 50 times a year, you'd still have to attend in person, 47 of them, but 5 of them could be done electronically. Finally, it also adds that if you're unable to attend a meeting due to a serious medical condition of an immediate family member that prevents the member's physical attendance, that would be another exception as well. Again, all this would be on the record. And I should also note this is permissive. The locality doesn't have to grant participation if someone is misusing it. The locality can say, sorry, you can't attend electronically. Of course, there's all elected officials, so if someone were to misuse this privilege, they can be voted out of office.
And question for council. Immediate family does have a definition within the code, correct?
Madam Chair, I would probably have to look and get back to you. We may have one. I'm going to see if there's one in this title.
Sure. Okay. Well, then just while we're discussing it, if you can just do that, that'd be great. So then, Delegate Levine, as the co-chair of the Transparency Caucus, I assume this has passed muster with other Transparency Caucus members?
Yes, I believe it has. Again, they are still participating. They're participating electronically. I would note that one of the things Transparency Caucus tried to do is allow our meetings to be shown electronically. So I would argue electronic participation is participation. And while physical appearance is important, I think we've limited it to a very small number of situations.
Great. Are there any questions for the patron?
Madam Chair.
Delegate Weber?
Okay, so what the bill is doing is you're defining how many meetings they can participate electronically as 10%, so that way it can vary depending on the number. And this is just for my own clarification. And then you are simply adding that if a member of the immediate family is in a serious medical condition, like in the hospital or something like that, then that's a condition by which they can participate electronically.
If it prevents the member's physical attendance.
And then the amendment, which is rounded to the nearest whole year, is that just because if somebody joins halfway through the year or something like that?
No, Madam Chair, I would respond that the purpose is to avoid fractions. So if you meet 12 times a year, 10% of 12 is 1.2, it becomes 2. If you meet 51 times a year, it would become 6.
I thank you.
Are there any other questions for the patron?
Madam Chair, I would move that we adopt the amendment.
We have to hear from testimony first.
Oh, okay.
All right. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the bill, such as the Vice Mayor of Alexandria? It's the Vice Mayor of Alexandria.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Elizabeth Bennett Parker, the Vice Mayor of Alexandria, and our City Council has voted to support HB 321. In November of 2018, my mother was hospitalized for an irregular heartbeat. I flew to Florida, and I was there until she was discharged later that same week. At that point, I had been elected, but not yet sworn in. I'm happy to say she's now fine, but had this incident occurred later, I could have missed up to 3 council meetings, depending on the week. The overwhelming majority of local elected officials serve part-time, and I suspect that as part-time officials yourselves, you understand my use of air quotes. These policies also apply to our many local boards and commissions on which our residents serve voluntarily. We have responsibilities outside of these boards, and life sometimes happens. Opposition to this bill would prioritize an entrenched form of government over a more accessible form of government, and I ask you to support this bill to remove barriers to civic engagement. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Michelle Gowdy, I'm speaking both for the Virginia Municipal League and the Virginia Association of Counties, and we both support this bill for the reasons already stated. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Is there anyone here to speak against the bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, and Megan Ryan with the Virginia Coalition for Open Government. And first, I'd like to thank the delegate for spending quite a bit of time with me talking about these issues. Unfortunately, we could not arrive at an agreement. We do oppose the bill because this is expanding the number not just by the amendments to lines 23, but by adding this additional category of serious medical condition. So under current law, someone can call in but not vote if they cannot, for some reason, attend. Current law says, though, if you have a temporary or permanent disability, we will let you call in and vote if you need to. And there's no limit on the number of times that can happen, because maybe you've broken your hip and you are confined to a bed. And so you have a limitless number of times you can use that temporary or permanent disability exception on lines 18 and 19. Lines 20 through 22 currently allow for you to call in and vote for a personal matter. And in 2012, that was actually 2013, excuse me, that phrase was used to overcome some objections by local government at the time that the phrase that was being used, which was personal emergency, was too narrow. In this, they wanted to expand the range of options. So it could be my mother is gravely ill, or it could be my boss has called me out to work in Toledo today. So that for those personal matters, those were the times that were limited. So now we've both expanded the number of times you can use that personal matters exemption, and now we've also added a limitless category of serious medical condition of an immediate family member requiring your attendance. So we just expanded quite a bit the number of possibilities for someone to use, and I do fear a Christmas tree effect, of course, but also I think it puts both the council and the member trying to use this exemption to get into the weeds of what is a serious medical condition. I don't think you referred to a definition, and I assume that there is. I don't really have a qualm with that, but that it also that condition prevented someone's attendance. So in the case of the vice mayor being in Florida, certainly did prevent the attendance at the meetings. But there is the situation of if someone's maybe in the hospital there in Alexandria, does that actually prevent the attendance of the person at the meeting? So I wouldn't want to be a council person in the position of having to defend that it was both serious and I couldn't come. I also wouldn't want to be his or her colleague who has to say, I don't think that was serious. That doesn't qualify as serious to me. And why couldn't your spouse or a home health care aide or whatever be there instead of you? So, and finally, when these provisions were put into law, they went through the FOIA Council through extensive study with stakeholders. There were at least 5 meetings in 2012 to come up with these provisions. And so I would ask that you oppose this bill.
All right. Thank you very much. And Delegate Levine, you have the last word.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would argue that the expansion is pretty limited, partly for the reasons that you just heard. If you have to explain with specificity, and the current law requires specificity both for personal matters and for a serious medical condition of an immediate family member that prevents the member's physical attendance, I think you'll be hard-pressed to say, I have to be at home with my kid, he has a cold. These are public explanations given publicly, and the public, first of all, your fellow members on the council have to decide whether it's a fair and reasonable excuse, because they don't have to allow it if someone misuses it. At the end of the day, it's up to the public to decide whether it's an excuse. I don't want this to be overused, but again, I think that 10% of the meetings, if you meet 50 times a year and you miss 5, you're attending, but you attend only electronically 5, and you specify the personal matter, that's less than once a month. I don't think that's too many. I don't think it'll be overused. And I think, again, a serious medical condition of an immediate family member that prevents a member's physical attendance that you have to explain in public is not something that'll be overused.
Thank you, Delegate Levine. And just spotting Michelle Yatti from VML. You all go with this bill? Yes. Okay. All right. Committee operates on motion.
Madam Chair, I move to report.
All right.
We need to move the...
Oh, right, I'm sorry. We have to move the amendment first. All right. So first,
Move to adopt the amendment.
thank you very much.
Second.
All right. The move to adopt the amendment has been made and properly seconded. So all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. All right. Now I need a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to report with amendment.
Thank you.
Second.
All right. Motion's been made and properly seconded. Everyone, please cast your vote. All right, clerk will close the roll. Aye 6, no 0. The bill as amended reports. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee.
So here's what's going to happen. Delegate Hodges, as you're the next present person, you're going to report. We've got 2 of our members here who have to go they have to go defend bills soon. So as soon as we get done with Delegate Hodges, we're going to put the committee at ease. I'm going to need a quorum, and I need everyone to be back here by 9 o'clock because we still have to do Delegate Subramanian's bill, and then we have an extremely important bill from Delegate Sickles. It's an agency bill that must get out today that we have to deal with today. So let's go ahead and bring it over to Delegate Hodges.
Good morning, members of the committee. Hopefully we'll make this quick. Let me tell you the issue and then how we're going to try to solve it. Now, Mid-Atlantic Broadband is a tax-exempt, not-for-profit 501c4, a nonprofit social welfare organization, and they're located in South Boston. They were founded in 2004 and initially funded by the Tobacco Commission to work with local governments, planning district commissions, to work with community organizations to facilitate construction of sustainable open access wholesale middle mile fiber optic networks. So basically, for broadband in Virginia. So since 2004, Mid-Atlantic Broadband has facilitated construction in 26 counties and today operates more than 1,900 miles of network. They also work with Verizon, they work with Comcast, they work with Cox, and they also work with local internet service providers and work with the private sector, and they work very well, and they have for years. What they do not do is they do not provide retail telecommunication services. So they do not compete against the Verizon, against the Comcast, against the Cox, or any other carriers, and nor do they compete against the local ISPs. Mid-Atlantic Broadband also works with our state agencies, and in particular what we're talking about here is VDOT. And actually, they worked with VDOT to develop a fiber network at no cost to VDOT in exchange for access to their right-of-way. Now, here's the problem. For 15 years, Mid-Atlantic Broadband has worked with VDOT and to build the fiber networks within the VDOT right-of-way. Now, VDOT issues land use permits for fiber construction companies that are either certified as public service corporations from the State Corporation Commission or to those that have met requirements to register with VDOT's one-call notification system. And they also pay a permit fee and submit a signed affidavit that every property owner adjacent to the planned fiber route construction has been notified of pending construction activity. Now, for years, VDOT has been working with Mid-Atlantic Broadband, and for years, no permit fees and have been paid, and nor has Mid-Atlantic Broadband have had to notify anyone by affidavit. So they were recently informed by VDOT that they would start to have to do this. And it creates a major problem in that the process is very cumbersome, it's very burdensome. You know, if the locality doesn't have GIS, they'll have to go to the courthouse to look it up, and it also can add a substantial cost to any project as well. So what Mid-Atlantic Broadband prefers to do, instead of applying to become a public service company, they prefer to keep up the guardrails of non-certification from the SEC. So there is no appearance that they will enter into the retail business and start competing with the customer. So basically the status quo for what we've been doing for years, and it has worked very, very well.
Thank you, Delegate Hodges. Delegate Hodges, I would ask, did this come by constituent request?
Yes,
or?
it did. Yes, it did.
And remember, everything goes to the chair.
Oh.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and so at this point, do we have any questions for the patron?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Delegate Weber.
I would ask the delegate, so in English,
This is the Dave Albo rule.
what does this bill actually do? And is it only applied to Mid-Atlantic, the organization you're talking to?
Yes. And if I may, Madam Chair, this bill only applies to Mid-Atlantic Broadband. Mid-Atlantic Broadband is the only 501c4 in the nation that I know of that provides services and works to develop the broadband. And basically, it keeps it as the status quo, the way they've operated all along. So if Mid-Atlantic Broadband had to apply to become a public service corporation, it would then open them up to be able to compete with the private sector. They don't want to do that. They want to continue operating as they do.
Further question, Madam Chair?
Delegate may state it.
So is VDOT requiring fees, et cetera, because they are treating Mid-Atlantic Broadband like any other franchise cable organization or any other
Yes,
organization?
and if I may, for years they have treated them just like they would, the private sector, the way the bill is written. But because they're not named in the actual legislation, they would have to start going and getting those affidavits and start to do all of that research and then apply for all of those fees as well. And it could actually increase the cost of a project, a 27-mile project that's currently going on. It could increase that cost by $30,000.
Madam Chair?
Delegate may state follow-up.
Yes, may I? So what the delegate seeks to do is exempt the social welfare organization from what the private companies do because they are providing a benefit that exceeds and does not, and the, you know what I mean?
Right,
They're,
and
they're essentially a nonprofit.
And they're nonprofit, so they're seeking to do that. The way that, they've been treated like this since 2004, but this was what they found in the code because they weren't specifically named in the code. And everyone is on board to be able to continue to operate like this.
All right, thank you.
All right, are there any other questions for the patron? All right, is there anyone here who is in favor or would like to speak to the bill?
Madam Chair, member of this committee, Chris Lloyd from McGuire Woods Consulting on behalf of Medic-Land Broadband. Delegate Hodges has portrayed the bill accurately. It was literally Medic-Land Broadband and had been operating this way for a number of years, and VDOT just called one day and said, oops, we reread the code, and actually you should be paying fees. And they were like, let's fix that. So that's what the bill is to do.
And I just want to make sure that they are the only group that this bill would apply to.
Yes, that's correct,
Okay.
Madam Chair, because
Thank you.
particularly because it says social welfare or benefit corporation that operates.
What's
fiber
their
optic network.
geographical range?
Madam Chair, if I might, Delegate Chair, Mid-Atlantic Broadband is connecting into the new fibers that are coming into Virginia Beach. They're picking those up in Prince George County. They run all across the state to the southwest area. They're connecting a number of the data centers, so it's really almost border to border, east to west.
Great.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the bill? Anyone who's opposed to the bill? Committee operates on motion.
Move to report.
All right, the move's been made and properly seconded. Everyone please cast your vote. Oh, and it's as is. There's no amendment. Yep. All right. Clerk will, what's the problem? Okay, clerk will close the roll. Aye 6, no 0, and the bill reports. Okay, so here's what's going to happen right now. I'm going to put the committee at ease because we've just lost our quorum here. I would like to make sure everyone is back here no later than 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock on the dot. Do not be late because we still have to get through at least 2 more bills.
Okay. Do we need to contact anybody?
Delegate Webert's asked, he said he'll be right back. He's coming in now. So we are back from being at ease. And Delegate Subramanian, you're going to go first. If you'd like to save time by presenting here at the dais, that's just fine. And then after that, Delegate Sickles has an agency bill, as stated earlier. It's 26 pages of fun, so we will take a nice little amount of time to deal with that. So, Delegate, floor is yours, and there you go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill essentially transfers the support administration of the 911 Services Board and the Virginia Geographic Information Network Advisory Board from
Delegate, you need to state the number of your bill.
Yes. This is HB 1003. Yes, thank you, Delegate. So this is HB 1003. And it, as I mentioned, it transports this support administration of two boards from Virginia Information Technology Agency to the Virginia Department of Emergency Management. It also adds a state coordinator for emergency management to the Virginia Geographic Information Network Advisory Board. So essentially what it's doing is it's transferring the authority and responsibilities of two emergency management boards from a technology agency to an emergency management agency. And this comes at the request of the agencies involved.
All right, Delegate, can you explain that? So basically, as I'm looking here from line 63 all the way to line 157, all of that is italicized. Are those existing powers for the the past agency, and because they are being put under a different banner, that's basically why we are just changing the code language for it, but their powers are still the same? Is that accurate?
I'm going to let the agency, which is here, explain that.
Okay, and I'll just state who you are and who you're with.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Joshua Hesslinger from Legal and Legislative Services at the Virginia Information Technologies Agency. This was a bill that VITA and VDEM came up with together. The administration strongly supports it. And in answer to your question, yes, all of the statutory language here is coming from existing code sections that are being repealed. And so my understanding of the way it's formatted when DLS drafts it up is they show up as new code sections in italics, but you can cross-reference to existing code sections to find all that language.
So you're saying this is a repeal and replace bill?
It's a repeal and put in a new place bill.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the agency or for the patron from the dais here? Delegate Weber?
Yes, Madam Chair. Why? If you don't mind.
That's a legit question.
Yeah, I would answer by saying that these are two emergency management boards, and that I think would be better placed under an emergency management agency rather than a technology agency.
And just as a reminder for everyone up here, everything goes through the chair.
Further question, Madam Chair?
Yes, Delegate may state it.
Okay, so as I understand it, we are moving the Geographic Information Network Division, or what are we moving? Under coordinate.
Madam Chair, there is.
Can you please bring your microphone closer to you? Thank you.
Sorry. Yes, there are a number of staff currently at VITA who support these two boards and the activities associated with these boards. Those staff will also move to the Department of Emergency Management, so there's full continuity there. In answer to the why, I think Delegate Subramanian stated it correctly. It's a question of the agencies kind of thinking, where does this fit best in state government? The state coordinator of emergency management, who's the head of VDEM, is already the head of the 911 Services Board. Obviously, you can't get more emergency oriented, I think, than 911 Services. And so just in consultation, the agencies thought that this made a lot of sense to get VITA focused and to put these emergency services focused boards with the Department of Emergency Management.
Further question?
Delegate may say it.
So the Geographic Information Network Division essentially handled a lot more emergency service oriented in which way, like determining 911 routes, all that, like collecting that data, as opposed to just VITA is purely like broadband and all that other stuff.
So, Madam Chair, all of the staff here, they're related. The public communications, public safety communications division, and the geographic division of VITA. Those staff are related. It's a group of about 20 employees. The geographic information services in this day and age does reach more broadly than just emergency services. So many things rely on GIS these days, but certainly the emergency services are a key constituency of GIS systems for things like call routing and so forth.
Thank you.
Does anyone else at the dais have a question for either the patron or for the administration?
Madam Chair, I do have an amendment as well.
Okay, delegate may state it. If you would you please explain your amendment?
It's just a technical amendment. It strikes on line 301, Chief Information Officer of the Commonwealth, and inserts State Coordinator of Emergency Management.
Move the amendment. Second.
All right, the amendment's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the amendment has been adopted. Okay, now is there anyone here who's in favor of the bill, if you'd like to speak? Is there anyone here opposed to the bill? Committee operates on motion.
Move to report as amended.
Wait, hold on. It's moved to report as?
Amended.
Okay, thank you. Delegate Weber has moved to report as amended. And Delegate Jenkins has seconded. So all of those who'd like to vote. And I'm sorry. So please destroy the roll. We have to also, thank you, Council. We have to also report as amended and refer to appropriations. Correct? Okay, thank you. So, all right. So would someone please make that motion?
Move to report as amended and refer to appropriations.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All right, so the move to report as amended and to refer to appropriations has been made and properly seconded. All those who would like
Let me get it up.
to vote will cast your vote.
With amendments and refer. Okay, hold on. Give me
That's it. We're going to get there.
There's one amendment, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Now I gotta get the appropriation.
All right, we're tracking.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Yeah, you're going to
new
want to
here.
do that. All right, clerk will close the roll. Ayes 7, noes 0. This bill, despite the patron's best efforts, reports unanimously. It goes.
For the record, I voted against my own
Everyone makes mistakes. It's just okay. Okay, so at this point, we are going to take up Delegate Sickles' bill. At the end of Delegate Sickles' bill, probably if we have not wrapped that up by 9:45, I'm going to kind of motion us to start wrapping it up. And then we will likely have 2 administrative items that we're going to have to take care of, one to move a bill by for a week and one to refer to another committee. But we will see what happens in the meantime while Delegate Sickles is presenting. So Delegate Sickles, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the committee. HB 1017, who I'm patroning with Terry Austin, really revamps our entire research effort here in Virginia. Virginia has been working in this area for over 3 decades. In several sessions prior to this, I've had bills. In 2008, I had a bill that helped restructure how we do some of this at CIT. So what we're proposing here, with a lot of work that's been done by a lot of people over the past 2 years, is to create a new Virginia Innovative Partnership Authority. It's a hybrid of best practices from across the nation and is intended to, maximize Virginia's unique assets, including our world-renowned higher education system and diverse regional economies. So what it does, and there'll be the main author of the bill is here, Robbie Demiria from the department, and I will just say real quickly that it consolidates the VRIC, what we call VRIC, with CIT's formal name, the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Investment Authority, IEIA, as you may know it, creates a new division for entrepreneurship ecosystem building, enhances existing divisions for research, commercialization, and investment, provides a structure for justification, implementation, and oversight of current or future centers of excellence. The subdivisions of the authority are things we've heard of before. the Commonwealth Cyber Initiative is a few years old. Virginia Catalyst, which is bio-oriented. The Commonwealth Center for Advanced Manufacturing, down just south of us. The Commonwealth Center for Advanced Logistics, Unmanned Systems, and Smart Communities would become subdivisions of the new authority. And it consolidates two existing commercialization funds into a single fund and creates a fund to support regional innovation, tech-based initiative, and infrastructure. So I know there's people who would like this board to be larger and may be a subject of conversation, but one of the benefits of this bill as presented here is that it has a small board of 9 members of well-defined subject matter experts that are described in detail in the bill. And of course, we all know or probably know that this unusual-looking CIT building in Herndon, just south of Dulles Airport, has been sold. And that's where CIT held up for all these years, kind of a little bit in obscurity, but doing important things and being quite successful, actually. And but the headquarters is felt needs to be here in Richmond, although there will be a substantial presence of the partnership in Northern Virginia. So that is a broad description of what the bill does. It's needed. Our university community, our research university, is supportive of the bill. And I'll let everybody who's here who wants to talk about it can tell you who supports it. So that's the overarching pitch on the bill, Madam Chairman, and I know there are people here to speak to it.
And Delegate Sickles, do you have a substitute?
I do have a substitute before you and a line item amendment to that substitute.
Okay, so let's, I'm going to ask.
Sorry about that. I should have sent it. But
So before we adopt the amendment, here's what we're going to do. Council's going to distribute it for a second. I would like members here, as Delegate Sickles explains maybe what some of the differences are between the substitute and the original, to take some time, read it over a little bit, because obviously, you know, this is a thick bill. And then we will adopt the substitute and then I will ask for a motion for the amendment to the substitute. So is everyone clear on that?
Madam Chair, we have
Yes.
a little handout here with the changes on it for members from the.
Right, that's helpful. If you would like to go through some of that, please, just for our audience at home who's watching this, just to make sure everything's into the record, that'd be helpful. All right,
This is the renowned Robbie Demiria to explain the changes in the bill.
And I would also
that
like to
changes almost daily.
I would also like to mention that Robbie Demira is the second most famous person in this room who went to Loch Lomond Elementary School in Manassas, only behind the chair here. However, I will also state that he's the only one who went to all 5 years at Loch Lomond. I only went through K-3, so you do actually trump me. And trivia, he was actually in class with my sister.
That's right.
That's right. So welcome.
Madam Chair, thank you so much, members of the committee. My name is Robbie Demary. I'm the Deputy Secretary of Commerce and Trade for Technology. Would you like me to go over the overall bill specifically and then maybe address some of the specifics? I know the delegate
So what I would
mentioned some
like
of
you
them,
to do first is address the substitutes here, because we have to motion to adopt the substitute. And then I would like you to address the amendment to the substitute. We will then motion to do that, and then you can go through the overall presentation.
Sounds good. All right, so the handout that you've received is a line-by-line sort of ability for you to be able to take the introduced bill and see where the changes were made. The majority of these changes are technical in nature, changing words from like participate in to partner with. Some of the big ones that I think we need to draw attention to, line 200, we struck that entire section and replaced it with that as Delegate Sickles mentioned, the headquarters will be in Richmond with a presence in Northern Virginia and hopefully other parts of the state. That wasn't well defined in the introduced bill. An additional, I think, large portion, we had some name changes that were a little bit different. Talking about the Growth Acceleration Program rather than Growth Accelerator Program. In the enactment clauses, you had VRIC was the only board that was mentioned that would hold over until 2021. In this case, we add the IEIA board as well, which I can kind of describe that in my general remarks as to what that might be. We changed the name of the Senate Committee on Finance and Appropriations, and we also will be changing the name of the Science and Technology Committee to its current name in the amendment the line amendment that the delegate's going to have.
That's one of the line amendments, correct?
It's already in the substitute?
Oh, so it's in the substitute? Oh, right, okay, that's right, okay. So just so everyone is clear, basically what happened is that this bill was pre-filed so basically before the start of session, and at the time, we hadn't changed the names of committees yet, and so this was still the Science Technology Committee. This is now being referred to in the code here by the House Committee on Communications, Innovation, Technology, and the Senate has changed the Senate Finance Committee to the Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee. So just explaining to everyone who's watching at home, that's what's going on. Please continue.
That kind of wraps it up as far as the amendments. Again, the majority of them are inserting president or chairman in cases where we got recommendation from either council or other stakeholders in the state.
Thank you. All right. Is there a motion, or first off, are there any questions about the substitute before we adopt it? Okay, can I get a motion to adopt this? Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right, substitute's been adopted. Now, line item. Please, if you'd like to go over that, that would be great.
Well, I might have a different version, but mine has on line 289, the line starts with the word shall annually. If you can find that, it's just striking some language further down that line in line 289. After any such legal entities, delete the comma, insert a period, and strike provided through the end of the line 291.
So, Delegate Sickles, all right, so you are referring on the substitute version, it was line 289.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
Pardon me?
And what was the first word that we were starting with?
Provided that on line 289. It's the.
Got it, yep.
Yep, through the end of the sentence, actually.
Thank you. Basically, so just so people are aware, when I was reviewing the bill and working with Delegate Sickles over the weekend regarding this is regarding a FOIA exemption that's not needed. We checked in with council about this. So basically, we are eliminating the FOIA exemption. So
this
we
was
are
just borrowed
continuing.
from the IEIA language before.
Yep.
It's just borrowed from, this has been existing law.
Yep, so we are good. So can anyone here please move the amendment?
Move the amendment.
All right, it's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, now let's get into the meat and potatoes of this thing.
Good.
Have we incorporated these amendments?
Yes, we have incorporated all of the amendments at this point. We have incorporated the substitute. Yeah, this. All right, so we've adopted the substitute. Did we incorporate the original amendments that came up here? Let's just do that just to be sure.
That's in the substitute.
That's in the substitute. Oh, all those are in the substitute. Gotcha. Okay, so then we have now moved the substitute. We've adopted the amendments and the substitute. Please continue.
All right, excellent. Okay, again, it's a pleasure to be here this morning to present this governor's bill. I had the chance to catch up with Chair Rome on Friday and she asked me to give about a 5-minute presentation on the bill, and so I'll do that and then answer any questions that you may have. Over the last 3 decades, the Center for Innovative Technology, based in Herndon and known as CIT, has served as the state's agency for technology-based economic development. Initially working with technology transfer offices and universities, CIT transitioned beyond state-sponsored research to supporting both public and private ideas in the earliest stages of commercialization and seed funding to help entrepreneurs launch and grow tech companies. Over the years, however, CIT faced unique challenges of adapting to a rapidly evolving industry while overseen by a traditionally risk-averse government. These unique challenges created gaps in Virginia's support for innovation, and for the past decade, Virginia filled those gaps with similar programs and functions across multiple secretariats and agencies. These efforts, while well-intended and in some cases were successful, were not efficient, nor were they easy for an entrepreneur to navigate. During this time, other states leapfrogged the Commonwealth, establishing themselves as destinations for researchers, inventors, and founders. Like Tennessee's central office, Launch Tennessee, that serves independently run hubs all across their state, or Colorado's forward-thinking investment strategies and their seamless user experience when navigating the state's economic development agencies, or last year's launch of the Ohio IP Promise, an initiative to make Ohio universities more attractive to innovators and entrepreneurs, or the much-talked-about Georgia Research Alliance during last year's 2019 General Assembly session. These are only a few of the many examples that show Virginia is behind peer states and the country in de-risking university technologies, early-stage investments, and the ability to coordinate at scale regional innovation efforts. Last March, following the failed passage of similar legislation, Secretary Ball, at the direction of the governor, led an extensive statewide initiative to gather input and identify the needs of all Virginians who want to participate in the tech-based innovation-led economy. We hosted 11 town halls, conducted a statewide survey, organized 3 comprehensive work sessions with 172 business and education leaders, gathered input from 65 organizations, chambers, tech councils, innovation networks, investors, state universities, and regularly consulted with existing boards and staff of affected agencies and the money committees. The results of that work led to the Virginia Innovation Partnership Authority, or VIPA. VIPA will support the entire life cycle of innovation from research to entrepreneurship to growth and acceleration or commercialization, enhancing Virginia's tech-based economic development by fueling company formation and job creation. VIPA's structure is a consolidation of 2 current initiatives: the Innovation Entrepreneurship Investment Authority, which is the that governs CIT, and the Virginia Research Investment Committee, otherwise known as VRIC, which was created 4 years ago to fuel higher education research in emerging technologies with strong commercial potential. VIPA will have 3 divisions. The first division is for entrepreneurial ecosystems. Many communities across Virginia are in need of backbone services ranging from marketing to venture networks to funding for programming. It's important that this division have flexibility to serve a wide range of needs. Virginia's economies are diverse, and the needs of Norton are not the needs of Norfolk. A new fund, the Regional Innovation Fund, is created to help support these services, but also to fund a competitive grant program similar to the current but expiring Regional Entrepreneurship Initiative at Go Virginia. The second division will be for direct and indirect investments. CIT currently has a family of seed funds known as the Growth Acceleration Program, or GAP funds. GAP funds have been investing in Virginia businesses for over 15 years. Under VIPA, the program will continue in addition to new investment opportunities through the money generated from the sale of the CIT building that Delegate Sickles mentioned in his opening remarks. These proceeds will be used for indirect investments like creating fund-of-funds and sidecar deals. The third division will be for commercialization of research. VIPA consolidates 2 existing funds, the Commonwealth Research Commercialization Fund at CIT and the Virginia Research Investment Fund at VRIC, into a single new fund called the Commonwealth Commercialization Fund. This single consolidation will drastically simplify an inventor's pathway through government services and connect a business's growth runway by eliminating the need to jump from agency to agency. The division will also work closely with university tech transfer offices to support proof-of-concept funding, programs to connect investors to inventors, the establishment of a central IP library, and other opportunities. These offerings are not a mandate. The intention is to be a partner with higher education to collaborate and ensure that Virginia is a founder-friendly state. VIPA will review existing tech-based economic development centers for excellence and initiatives like the Commonwealth Center for Advanced Manufacturing or the Commonwealth Cyber Initiative, and develop a system to evaluate and recommend to the Governor and General Assembly implementation and oversight plans. All 3 boards are supported by advisory committees established by the Authority Board. The Authority Board is made up of the Secretary of Commerce and Trade and 8 well-defined subject matter experts who are non-legislative citizens of Virginia. In HB 1017, the substitute that's in front of you, 5 of those citizens are appointed by the Governor and 3 of those citizens are appointed by the Joint Rules Committee. VIPA will be headquartered in Richmond with a presence in Northern Virginia and ideally throughout the Commonwealth in the years to come. There are a few of the many organizations here today to support HB 1017. A full list of those that support this initiative can be found on the back of the summary that I handed out to you all individually at your offices. I have extra copies if you would like them. I do want to make note that the 2 entities that will be repealed by this legislation, the governing authority of CIT and VRIC, both endorsed VIPA in early December. There is no known opposition to this bill. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, so I'm going to start here, and then we will have a number of questions from committee members, starting with Delegate Plum and then Delegate Weber. So first thing I want to talk about here is that, and so just so you know, Delegate Sickles, this will be more for Robbie in the meantime here for Mr. DeMera. So yeah, it's trying to make things easy for you. Okay, so first I'd like you to talk about line 138, where it talks about how of the non-legislative citizen members, 2 non-legislative citizen members.
Are you on the substitute? I'm sorry.
I'm on the substitute,
okay.
Yeah. Line 138, page 6, it says, of the non-legislative citizen members, Roman numeral 1, 2 non-legislative citizen members appointed by the governor shall be from the investor community with experience as a partner in a venture capital fund with a minimum of $35 million under management or experience qualifying as an accredited investor as defined by the Federal Securities and Exchange Commission who have experience investing as an individual or as part of an angel group in 10 or more early stage companies. That seems so narrowly tailored as if it was to define an individual or a very small group of individuals. Can you explain basically the origin of this section?
Yeah, so this section actually started as 8 individual folks, and it was the recommendation of a lot of the stakeholders that we combine them into 4 subsets, one on venture capital, the other on technology, the third on commercialization experience, and the fourth on entrepreneurial. So when we did combine the two venture individuals, we put it as an or. So on line 138, after management, it says or experience qualifying. The idea here was that you would want someone that has significant experience in large venture deals, but also have the ability to have somebody that might be an angel or in an early Series A side.
Can you also describe just for the general public what basically what that angel fund person is? Like, what does that person do?
Angel funds are typically your pre-seed and seed funding where you're making investments at the very early stage of a company, very limited terms and conditions to go with those, usually a note that can be carried over a period of time versus a venture side, which would be your Series A, B, or you're into the millions of dollars in investments, and where you're taking a certain percentage of equity or some sort of royalty for that investment.
Right, and then line 138 where it says a minimum of $35 million, why is that specific number of importance?
I cannot answer that specifically as to why or throughout the negotiations how that became the threshold, but I'm happy to circle back with stakeholders and get you an answer.
All right, yeah, if you can just do that before we go to full committee, that's fine. All right, I want to jump to line 152. It says the governor shall consider the geographic and demographic diversity of the board. To me, in a more perfect world, and if it's a friendly amendment, I would certainly like to see what y'all's feedback here is. Right now, the way that the legislation is written, it says the authority shall be governed by a board of directors consisting of 9 voting members as follows: Secretary of Commerce and Trade, or his designee, and then that's where we then get to the other 8.
Yes.
My concern with the legislation as is right now is that when we talk about considering geographic and demographic diversity on it, that even being from Northern Virginia, and so of course I love it when Northern Virginia people are, being civically engaged. My worry is that statewide, this will be so front-loaded with people from Northern Virginia who are very typically a part of the process as it is when it comes to dealing directly with state government, when it comes to already having a seat at the table. And so when we're looking at the qualifications for what someone can come from here, Northern Virginia is a tech center for the state, and so I'm really trying to basically figure out what can we do to ensure that we really do have a good geographic balance, and that it's not just going to be a bunch of rich white guys from Northern Virginia who are going to make up this committee. You know what I mean? So can you kind of address my concerns there? And one of the things I had talked about, or just kind of thrown about the idea was, what if we had the Secretary of Commerce plus 11 commission members, 1 from each congressional district, for example? Would that be something that you would be amenable to?
It's a fair concern, Madam Chair, that you have, which is why we put that specifically in the language requiring geographic and demographic diversity of the board. I think that this board specifically is so narrowly defined in locating, you've got a venture capitalist, an angel, you've got requirements for understanding how commercialization works, that if it was mandated that you had one representative from every congressional district, that it would be difficult to be able to fill those seats. With that said, it is the intention that this be geographically represented, and I will point note as well on line 363 on page 14 of the substitute. It says the division, this is under the division of investment. The division shall work to support investments in diverse economies and regions of the Commonwealth and shall engage members of rural and geographically underrepresented communities on advisory committees and in positions of decision-making. What's important here is not only should we be making investments in businesses all across the Commonwealth, not just in Northern Virginia, but we should be putting folks in those communities on the boards that are making those decisions. Just above that as well, on line 359, we do address that the division shall partner and support women-owned and minority-owned entrepreneurial initiatives or entities through initiatives such as investor networks, accelerators, and incubators. It is vitally important that the state of Virginia lead on a terrible statistic that less than 2% of all investments are being made into businesses founded by women, even less when it comes to minority founders. So we strongly believe that the Commonwealth should be leading that charge. There would be some fears in the board of directors.
So here's the issue that I would kind of raise with that, is that it is very good that we have line 359 to say that the division shall partner with and support women-owned and minority-owned entrepreneurial entities. I want to make sure that the people who are making the votes here, of who will be doing the partner, the people who are at the top of the line here, I want to guarantee that we have that diversity of thought, because the danger that we run into as in Commonwealth, and quite frankly as a country, frankly, is that when we have large positions of power and we have one demographic group that is overwhelmingly dominating that group, then it can just appear that, oh, the diversity, we have a woman, we have a person of color, isn't that great? No, we need to have seats at the table. You know what I mean? So if we could, I was wondering, maybe a simple thing that we could do right now is if we could just change shall consider demographic, and basically it's the line shall consider geographic and demographic diversity to guarantee geographic and demographic diversity. If that would be considered a friendly amendment, I'd be happy to get your feedback.
Well, I don't think that we should do that at this stage, and I've never seen anything like that in a piece of legislation when you're appointing a board that you guarantee anything. And by the way, the technology community in Northern Virginia is extraordinarily diverse, and they're not all led by white men. I don't know where you've been, but the Northern Virginia technology community is extraordinarily diverse. People, most of the inventors and people in these high-tech companies are actually born in other countries. So we are taking, and as far as Northern Virginia-centric, we're taking this from Northern Virginia to bring it here to give more attention. The idea of this bill is to build a better platform so that we can invest more and grow our own economy and do maybe a little bit less of pulling in, spending our money, drawing people here and paying them to have jobs here. So we're trying to create our own economy here. I don't think the word guarantee, I would not consider that a friendly amendment.
Okay. Delegate Plum?
Delegate Sickles and I have shared the history of the CIT and its ups and downs and its efforts to try to get cooperation. And it's an overgeneralization, I know, to say that one of the real challenges has been to get the higher education community to buy into the fact that CIT was a hub of innovation. And in fact, some of the demise of it may have come from that inability. So I'm curious to know, other than taking the location from my neighboring community and moving it to Richmond, what are you doing in this bill that will overcome what have been those challenges in CIT?
Well, let me just make a personal observation, which probably doesn't get to the heart of it, but it's been poorly funded over time. So there's like 25 employees there now. The GAP fund itself is not very rich, and they've been very successful because they get, I want to just generalize here, they get 400 applications for 40 available slots. So we have had real good success at that early level, but the research community is complaining that it's not enough. We also with our CRCF program, make $50,000 available to scholars and our professors around the state that draw down SBIR, STTR grants from the feds to pay for administrative costs, which the federal government doesn't do. So that was very popular when we enacted that in 2009. But I think the big picture why people don't know as much about it, and I'd love to hear from the audience on this, but the investments are so small, it's hard to draw the governor to a ribbon cutting for a company that has 5 to 8 people. And that we're trying to build from the very, very start of an idea and bring it and have the mechanism there to take it all the way to commercialization and do a better job of that. What Mr. Mayor is saying, that other states have done a better job than we have. This is our start to do that. Hopefully we'll build a platform that we want to invest in.
Okay. Delegate Plum has a follow-up, and then we'll go to Delegate Weber.
Delegate Stickles, I would tend to agree with you that one of the problems we've had has been putting adequate money into making it seem like it was a really sharp effort on our part. And as a consequence, what we did is we started these little programs here and there. And so suddenly we ended up with a proliferation of programs without a coordinating agency. So, Madam Chair, I would like to commend the administration and the patron for getting your arms around trying to figure this thing out. And I think it's going to be a synergistic kind of action where we're going to get more bang for the bucks we spend because of the fact that we put it together. So I commend you for it.
If I could make one comment on that for everybody, we almost had this bill done last year. It was Chris Jones's bill. I was the chief co-patron on it. We ran out of time at the end of the budget to get it done. The Northern Virginia Technology Council and maybe others were not fully satisfied with the language at that time. So my hat is off to Robbie and others that have made this happen. So it's a bipartisan effort, and I hope we can send it on to a passage starting today.
Sure. All right. Delegate Weber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of, I guess, questions.
And feel free to ask them in succession.
Yeah. First, I guess this would be a question for the patron. Exactly how, because the gentleman had mentioned the collaboration of funds and bringing certain funds together in order to, I guess, facilitate this. Exactly how does the state fund this? Because I know it draws down grants and stuff from the feds. But exactly, I mean, what kind of money are we talking about, and what kind of accountability is there for that cash?
Yeah, well, I don't know what we have done in past because I don't have that with us, but in the budget for year one, we have about $37 million, and in year two, $42 million in the governor's budget right now. And that covers a lot of areas.
Yeah, that's just, year one is the consolidation of VRIC and CIT plus the pass-through for the current centers of excellence. So there's no new dollars in the governor's budget in year one.
Okay. So a couple of, I guess another question would be, we've done several things while I've been in. We have Go Virginia, we have et cetera. And I noticed there's a little bit of language in here in that this could supplement Go Virginia in some case. How would that work?
That's a great question.
Yeah, so I mentioned the Regional Entrepreneurship Initiative that's going to be expiring later this year. So that would be an opportunity for this new authority to step in to cover those issues. But we've also had situations where large projects have come to Go Virginia in which the subject matter experts have been maybe 2 or 3 folks that maybe don't have a lot of expertise in that. This is a great opportunity for VIPA to partner with DHCD and Go Virginia to help them vet those projects. If the money is at Go Virginia and we want to be able to support them, this to me is a partnership, which is why we changed that language from participate in to partner with Go Virginia. This is not supposed to be repetitive, redundant, or overlapping. It's a collaborative opportunity.
Okay, further question? Okay, so I am a company that's developing a new engine or some sort of technology. How would I take advantage of this?
It depends. Well, currently you would probably go to CIT and get a $50,000 grant to either match an SBIR, STTR grant you got from the feds, or to match private private money. You would then go through a couple months and then have to jump over to SHEV and go to VRIC and VRIF and get another $150,000 to get your next initiative. And then depending, you mentioned a manufacturing company, but if you're in life sciences, the VBHRC, which is Virginia Catalyst program, does about $200,000 to $800,000 investments, requiring that you have partnership with a private entity. Right now, our entrepreneurs are having a stop go approach to that runway. What this bill will do is consolidate what Delegate Plum had mentioned, consolidate that opportunity for the entrepreneur to better navigate themselves from start to finish in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
So then they would just come to this entity?
This would be the entity that they would be a front door if it's technology-based entrepreneurship. And then if there's other opportunities for partnerships, whether it be programs at VEDP, programs at SBSD, like the Small Business Finance Authority, this would be an opportunity to connect those. It's, if you will, a front door for the government side of entrepreneurship.
Okay. Actually, this is streamlining, it seems, so I very much like this. I've got a couple of other, just real quick. In regards to your board, you've got a person who's in charge of a hedge fund, $35 million. Is there anything in the language, because that seems like they have access to businesses and ideas that they might not normally have, because this is consolidating a place where these folks can bring all this new technology. Is there anything in the legislation that prevents that person from taking advantage of their position on the board?
No, I mean, I'd have to maybe refer to counsel on conflicts of interest. Yeah, on conflicts of interest. I mean, yeah.
All right. If you want to come back with an answer to that prior to full committee, that would be great. Appreciate it. Do you have any other questions?
And then my only other question is, how do we as or I guess you, Mr. Sickles, or as the appropriations, et cetera, verify that we are making headway in regards to the investments that the Commonwealth is making in this? And that's my last question, Madam Chairman. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Doc.
There are numerous reporting requirements in the bill for telling us and the rest of the state what they're doing. There's a lot of language in here that addresses basic government that is really tedious to read. They bring in, on everything. Everything is covered to make sure things like conflict of interest and things like that are covered in the bill. So there's a lot of boilerplate in here, and I suggest that you read it. And do you have a better answer to that question? How do we know we're getting our money's worth?
No, the only addition to it would be that there is very specific reporting requirements in budget language. So every 2 years when we do the budget, if the state of Virginia decides that they're going to put $5 million into gap funds, the reporting requirements that are associated with that are very, very specific. So Delegate's right. There's general reporting requirements in statute, but very specific reporting requirements in budget language.
Thank you.
All right. Last question I have is, I know there are some parts in here that deal with pursuing private funds regarding the authority. Do we have any potential investors or people who have already lined up and expressed interest in supporting the initiative?
Yes.
Okay, great.
We have a waiting list every year for the limited funds we have now. Like I said earlier, people who are in our universities have a new idea, they're trying to pursue intellectual property in some manner. They are waiting for this, if that's what you mean. This is not like VDEP, which what they do is totally different. We are growing our own here. These are the smallest companies and firms that are out there.
Great.
Hey,
now, Delegate Helmer.
Madam Chair, I wanted to ask the delegate. I read the bill. I think it's an incredibly important bill, and I'm really excited for us to attract increasing entrepreneurship and capital to the Commonwealth of Virginia. One of the things I noted is the membership of the board includes 2 venture capitalists, and I would offer that one of the challenges we've seen in venture capital and capital more broadly for entrepreneurship is that it tends to flow to folks and underserved minority communities, people based on gender, and also some of our veteran community. I wondered if, as we move this through, if you would be willing to entertain amendments that would ensure that we track the diversity and the diversity of who is receiving those grants.
Delegate, before you got here, Mr. DeMaria was reading sections of the bill that address that. And I think the reason they want someone who's in this bill that have had success in the private sector is, we want to learn from that experience here, and we want to have the next Google here, and we want people who really know what they're doing, and not politicians and that kind of thing. But go ahead.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Delegate Helmer, you're talking about reporting, essentially tracking the types of investments that are being made. Yeah, those specific requirements are in the reporting requirements that are in budget language. Currently, that's being considered.
This does not address this question.
I mean, I think that, on line 359 of the substitute, the division shall partner with and support women-owned and minority-owned entrepreneurial entities through initiatives such as investor networks, accelerators, and incubators. The division shall consider status of women-owned and minority-owned businesses when making direct or indirect investments.
Madam Chair, may I ask a follow-up?
Yeah, final follow-up, and then we got to get to people speaking to the bill.
Madam Chair, I would just offer that in Virginia, it would be good if that language, as it moves forward to committee, include veteran-owned small businesses.
Good idea.
Delegate Sickles, would you like to ask us to make that amendment, or is that something that we just need to deal with later? Yep. Would we be able to have the amendment ready for a full committee, as Delegate Weber suggested?
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Okay, great. Would that go into what, line 359 then?
Yes.
Great. And Delegate Helmer, that's a great idea, so thank you for pitching that. All right, is there anyone here who is here to speak in favor of the bill? And if you are, please keep your remarks relatively brief. Yep.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Carrie Roth. I'm President and CEO of Activation Capital in the Virginia BioNTech Park, our Life Sciences Advanced Technology campus, just located a couple of blocks from here. I also previously served as Deputy Secretary of Commerce and Trade and was instrumental in a number of the initiatives that are now being consolidated in this bill. There are so many great reasons to do it, but most importantly, I think a number of folks had mentioned, one, for our founders, we have a number of our companies that have to go on different timelines to different agencies that are holding up the progress of their companies. And two, we are diluting the Commonwealth's money by having a number of different initiatives in a number of different places. And this really can make a more positive impact and a more founder-friendly environment in Virginia.
Thank you very much. And that length of presentation was right on point, so keep going.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Terry Durkin, Vice President of Public Policy for the Roanoke Regional Chamber of Commerce. This is an important piece of legislation that is being supported by a number of our local innovators, and I'd like to add our chamber's voice of support for the bill.
Great.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Troy Murphy with the Northern Virginia Technology Council. We represent about 1,000 member companies and organizations and 300,000 employees in the Commonwealth. We appreciate the work that has been done on this legislation over the past year and are happy to support the bill this year. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Nick Surface. I'm the Executive Director of RVA Tech, the Richmond Technology Council. We represent over 150 companies here in the greater Richmond area, from startups all the way to enterprise, to colleges and universities, to nonprofits. And we support this bill as well, particularly the consolidation and the opportunity to make one path forward for our entrepreneurs and our growth companies. I want to thank Deputy Secretary DeMaria for putting it together and everyone else involved. And we support it tremendously, and we hope you do too. Thank you.
Great. Is there anyone here who's here to speak against the bill? Okay, so if we're going to do a report here, first off, is there any further discussion from the dais? I hope not, because we don't have a lot of time. Okay, great. So if we're going to do a report for the bill, someone's going to have to make a motion to move the substitute as amended. Okay, and Delegate Sickles, do we have to also refer the bill to appropriations?
It has
we
several funds in it, and that has been the tradition. And yes.
Okay, so we are going to adopt the substitute as amended and refer to appropriations.
Move to adopt.
Hold on one second. Yep. Oh, no. They're going to present that for next week. In front of the full committee. Yep.
Veteran-owned businesses.
That'll be a line amendment.
Yeah, we'll make that a line. Yeah, alignment for full committee, that'll be fine. Because that'll give DLS time to draft it as well. Okay, so all right, so Delegate Weber, you move
Move to report as
the substitute.
the substitute and refer to appropriations.
The substitute as amended.
As amended to appropriations.
Thank you. Second. Okay, the motion to move the substitute as amended and refer to appropriations has been made and properly seconded. All those who would like to vote, please do so now. The clerk will close the roll. Aye 6, no 0. The bill has been reported, the substitute of the bill as amended has been reported and referred to appropriations. Thank you very kindly, Delegate Sickles.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee.
And also thank you as well to Mr. Demera for all his work as well. At this point, we have just some quick administrative stuff to do. We need to pass by Delegate Dave LaRock's HB 979 for the week. Can I please get a motion to do that? All right, it's moved and passed by. Thank you. And then I need to do the same with Delegate Corey's HB 1068. All right, great. All right, and so all those in favor, aye. All those opposed, all right, ayes have it. And that completes our work for today. The full committee is up next, and the subcommittee is adjourned.